Paul Chan's aide resigns over fresh conflict of interest controversy. US-Russia relations sour over asylum for Edward Snowden. And Silvio Berlusconi loses appeal in tax fraud case.
Good evening. An aide to embattled Secretary for Development Paul Chan has resigned. The Development Bureau's political assistant Henry Ho is being linked to another conflict of interest controversy over the ownership of land in the Northeast New Territories. Rani Samtani reports.
The Development Bureau's political assistant Henry Ho has resigned, effective immediately. This follows media reports that he had been a major shareholder of a company that owned 20,000 square feet of land in Kwu Tung before he transferred his shares to his family last November. He failed to declare this to the chief executive or the Secretary for Development. The Development Bureau is responsible for plans to redevelop the Northeast New Territories. Ho's former boss, Development Chief Paul Chan, is also involved in a conflict of interest controversy over land owned by his family. And in yet another scandal hitting the government, Franklin Lam resigned from the Executive Council yesterday over the sale of flats before government measures to cool the property market took effect.
Even though he has, now after ICC investigation, he is legally clean, but is not politically clean. His resignation is actually doing good to the government, while Paul Chan, he stick to his current position, will only make more trouble for the government.
Lam was exonerated after the Department of Justice pointed out that there was insufficient evidence to press charges against him.
I think it's a good thing that is for once that we actually clear the name of my past colleague Franklin Lam. So I personally know that he hasn't has any problem with it because he disclosed his decision to sell his own property way before this whole incident has taken place.
I think it is a good thing that Mr. Lam has been cleared of the allegations against him. I don't think his departure would affect the work of the Executive Council, as this term we have actually a fairly large number of unofficial members drawn from different sectors, and we don't lack expertise in finance, property, or development.
Franklin Lam took a leave of absence from the Executive Council last November after the ICAC launched an investigation into complaints against him. After he resigned yesterday, he released a statement citing that the whole ordeal put a lot of pressure on him and his family. Rani Samtani, TVB News.
Well, debate over political reform is heating up after a dinner gathering last night between the chief executive and members of the pan-democratic camp. There now calls to set up a consultation committee that would pave the way for universal suffrage here. Vicky Kong has more.
A dinner gathering at Government House last night brought together pan-democrats and pro-establishment figures. It opened up informal discussion on universal suffrage, political reform, and the central government's power to name and screen out chief executive candidates. But Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying did not offer a timetable on political reform or the start of public consultation.
I think the next step, as some of the participants did voice out in the last dinner, that a proper committees, a high-ranking committee should be set up to start off formally a consultation process on the political reform. This is the right move.
Linda Lee, an academic who attended last night's dinner, believes such a platform should be created as soon as possible so that universal suffrage can be implemented in 2017.
Of course, government needs some time to plan for the formation of such a platform. Okay, but I would love to see some kind of this kind of mechanism to be in place before the end of this year. Maybe 2 months in preparation, then maybe hopefully we can have something in place in autumn.
Lee thinks the key to a fair and transparent consultation process is to elect a committee where diverse views can be heard.
I think the committee should have a fairly broad representation of the stakeholders, of the stakeholders in Hong Kong. So obviously the major political parties should be in there. And of course, And then the major players in the community should be in there. For instance, people from the church, I would say, okay, and the major business groups should be there. And of course, labor unions.
To ensure efficient discussion on electoral reform, some academics are suggesting the government to form a platform with no more than 100 members. Vicky Kung, TVB News.
The strong wind signal number 3 is still in force as severe tropical storm Jebi continues to bring wet weather to the city.
According to this forecast track, Jebi will be closest to Hong Kong around this evening and skirting to the southwest of Hong Kong at more than 400 kilometers.
At 7 p.m., Jebi was about 430 kilometers southwest of Hong Kong, and it's forecast to move northwest at about 25 kilometers an hour across Hainan Island and its vicinity. The observatory says when Jebi moves further away and poses less of a threat to Hong Kong, it will consider cancelling the number 3 signal.
Turning overseas now, relations between the United States and Russia have hit a new rocky patch after Moscow granted Edward Snowden temporary asylum yesterday. Snowden, who leaked classified material detailing the extent of America's global spying activities, is reportedly at a secret location. The United States is furious with Russia after it decided to grant temporary asylum to fugitive Edward Snowden last night. The former National Security Agency contractor is wanted in America since he leaked classified material which exposed the extent of U.S. spying activity around the world.
We are extremely disappointed that the Russian government would take this step despite our very clear and lawful requests in public and in private to have Mr. Snowden expelled to the United States to face the charges against him. Mr. Snowden is not a whistleblower. He is accused of leaking classified information.
Even those normally opposed to U.S. President Barack Obama want Snowden punished.
Mr. Snowden's actions have hurt the ability of our country to protect our citizens. And I would hope that President Obama would engage President Putin on this issue and resolve it in a way that's satisfactory to the American people.
Lawyers working for Snowden said last night he had been given papers allowing him to leave the Moscow airport where he had been holed up ever since he left Hong Kong more than a month ago. Given the enemies he's made since his leak of the NSA material, it's not surprising he's keeping a low profile at an undisclosed location. The decision by the Russians could further strain US-Russia relations, even affecting an upcoming summit between the two presidents in Moscow.
I think we're headed for a very rocky period in U.S.-Russia relations over the near term. I think the second shoe to drop will be some form of decision to cancel part of the president's trip.
Ties had already been strained over Russia's support of Syria, Moscow's human rights record, and other disputes. Now, granting Snowden asylum gives Russia the chance to deflect criticism about its own patchy record and instead depict itself as a defender of human rights and a country that respects the rule of law. Italy's Supreme Court has upheld a tax fraud conviction and jail sentence against former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. The ruling represents the first definitive conviction of the 76-year-old media mogul. He was convicted of the fraudulent purchase of broadcasting rights by his television empire. The 4-year sentence will be commuted to 1 year under an amnesty, and he won't have to go to jail if he agrees to perform a year of public service. Following the sentence, Berlusconi released a 9-minute video in which he denounced the conviction and the sentence as baseless. The court did order a judicial review of the second part of his sentence, a 5-year ban from public office. That means he can remain as a senator and leader of his centre-right People of Freedom Party. It's part of the fragile coalition government led by Prime Minister Enrico Letta.
In the U.S. city of Cleveland, the man convicted of holding 3 women in his house for more than a decade and raping them repeatedly has been sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years. 53-year-old Ariel Castro earlier pleaded guilty to 937 counts that included murder, kidnapping and rape. Alan Buckner reports.
11 years in hell. The fact that Castro pleaded guilty spared him a possible death penalty. The 3 women had disappeared between 2002 and 2004. They were 14, 16, and 20 years old at the time. The court heard that they were held in locked bedrooms and kept in chains. Their ordeal ended in May when one of them managed to escape from the house and call police. Just one of the victims, Michelle Knight, appeared in court to testify. She was the first woman abducted. At 20, she was lured into the house with the promise of a puppy for her son.
Ariel Castro, I remember all the times that you came home talking about what everybody else did wrong and act like you wasn't doing the same thing. You said, at least I didn't kill you. You took 11 years of my life away, and I have got it back. I spent 11 years in hell. Now your hell is just beginning.
But Castro portrayed himself as the victim, saying he was addicted to pornography. He said the women lived a happy life with him. He even claimed all the sex was consensual.
What I'm trying to get is that these people are trying to paint me as a monster, and I'm not a monster. I'm sick. My sexual problems have been so bad on my mind that I'm impulsive.
You say that you really couldn't help that lack of insight. Means to me that you are still pose a grave danger to the community if you would receive anything other than a consecutive sentence. That you don't deserve to be out in our community. You're too dangerous because in your mind, you're a victim, again, as opposed to those who actually did suffer the victimization.
As he was being led from the court, Michelle Knight watched, smiling. Alan Bookney, TVB News.
U.S. embassies and consulates that would normally be open this Sunday will be closed on that day because of unspecified security concerns. Many of the missions affected are in the Middle East.
The department has been apprised of information that, out of an abundance of caution and care for our employees and others who may be visiting our installations, that indicates we should institute these precautionary steps. It is possible we may have additional days of closing as well, of course, depending on our analysis. Individual U.S. embassies and consulates will announce whether or not they are open and whether they are implementing restrictions or other measures.
Other U.S. officials said the threat is in the Muslim world. American embassies in Baghdad, Cairo and Abu Dhabi are among those that would be closed.
Taiwanese lawmakers exchanged punches in the middle of a heated debate about whether to finish building the island's fourth nuclear power plant. There was bedlam inside the chamber as rival groups of legislators scuffled and threw objects at one another. The punch-up came ahead of an expected vote on holding an island-wide referendum on whether to finish the power plant. Nuclear power has long been a controversial issue in earthquake-prone Taiwan. And that's even more so ever since the Fukushima power plant meltdown in Japan following the earthquake and tsunami of 2011. And when we come back, construction worker jailed over death of stray cat. Suspect in company bus knife attack appears in court. And a Michael Clark century at the Ashes.
We're back tonight with more local news. A construction worker has been jailed for 3 months after he was found guilty of animal cruelty. He's blamed for the death of a stray cat while under the influence of alcohol. Evelyn Leung reports.
The incident happened in May. The court heard 48-year-old An Hai-jo caught a stray cat in a park in Tsuen Wan and dragged it around by tying a rope around its neck. When the cat tried to escape, An used a wooden bat to smash its head. The animal eventually died. An then put the cat's body into a plastic bag and placed it on a bench. Passers-by who witnessed the incident reported it to the police. When officers arrived at the scene, they discovered the cat's body and found that An was drinking alcohol. The construction worker was arrested. In sentencing at the Tsuen Wan Magistracy, Magistrate Raymond Wong said the defendant was an alcoholic and was cruel to animals. He pointed out that just because the defendant was under the influence of alcohol, that doesn't mean he could beat a cat to death. An was slapped with a 3-month prison term. The cat that was killed was being taken care of by Ms. Chan, a volunteer of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Today, she expressed disappointment towards the ruling. She said the cat got along very well with humans. Rebecca An of the SPCA, meanwhile, believes the sentencing will have a deterrent effect. Ang also said there has been a surge in animal cruelty cases recently, which shows the public is becoming more concerned about the well-being of animals. Evelyn Lang, TVB News.
The suspect in the knife attack on board a company bus on Wednesday has appeared in court. The hearing was adjourned for 2 weeks, pending the release of psychiatric reports. 57-year-old Zheng Choi-ho was taken to Chunmun Magistracy in a police van this morning. He's charged with 8 counts of wounding with intent. Zheng is accused of attacking his co-workers with a cleaver on their way to work at a fruit processing plant in Tai Po. 11 people were injured or reported feeling unwell. The magistrate today called the case very serious and described the defendant as having lost control. He granted a prosecution request to adjourn the hearing until August the 16th, pending the release of psychiatric reports to determine if the defendant is mentally fit to stand trial. Zheng has been remanded at the Siu Lam Psychiatric Centre.
The University of Hong Kong Shenzhen Hospital has been in trial operation for a year now, and it's given many doctors here new opportunities to expand their careers. But as more veterans switch from the hospital authority to Shenzhen, there are concerns Hong Kong is losing experienced health professionals. At 7 in the morning, 2 liver transplant experts make the hour-and-a-half-long journey from Queen Mary Hospital in Pok Fu Lam to the Shenzhen Hospital for work. Both recently left the hospital authority to work for the University of Hong Kong, and twice a week they're sent to Shenzhen. Dr. William Shah said he started at noon the day before. It's been 18 hours. The Shenzhen government put $3.5 billion into building the Hong Kong U Shenzhen Hospital. The university provides management and trainers to whip a team of mainland doctors into shape. The more complex surgeries are also handled by the Hong Kong experts. It's one of the mainland's medical reform projects aiming to bring the Hong Kong model up north. In the surgical unit, 3 veteran doctors were poached from the hospital authority over the past year. Dr. Lo Chung Mao, who oversees the Shenzhen Hospital's surgical unit, says this has brought extra resources into the department, opening up positions and benefits to keep doctors who may otherwise have switched to the private sector. But Tim Pang of the Patients' Rights Association expressed concern. He pointed out that there are only about 250 medical students graduating in Hong Kong every year for the next few years, so the SAR can't afford to lose more doctors to neighbouring cities. He suggested the university set a limit to how much time Hong Kong doctors will work in Shenzhen to minimise the impact on local public health services. Here's food for thought for tonight. A Green Group has warned about health risks relating to the consumption of processed meat. Stephanie Choi has the story.
Government, should really take the lead, in organising more educational campaigns, more advertisements, and promotions, etc., to, draw the awareness of the general public towards the high risk involving consumption of processed meat.
This appeal from EarthCare followed a survey conducted by the Green Group and a team of students from the Institute of Vocational Education. It found that while most people are aware of the potential risks of colorectal cancer that comes with eating processed meat, many remain indifferent. While the World Cancer Research Fund recommends people to avoid processed meat, only 7.2% of the 500 respondents said they would do so.
An article published by a UK-based medical journal suggests that keeping daily consumption of processed meat below 20 grams will prevent more than 3% of all deaths. However, consuming an average of 17 to 19 grams of processed meat per day, which is about half the sausage, it seems that the people of Hong Kong are dangerously close to being more susceptible to premature death.
The survey also found that on average, those self-proclaimed extremely unhealthy respondents indulged in an average of 42 grams of processed meat every day. Eating excessive processed meat not only puts them at a greater risk of premature death. According to the American Institute of Cancer Research and the World Cancer Research Fund, it also puts them at a higher risk of developing colorectal cancer. Researchers say their survey only offers an overview of the eating habits and attitudes of local people, so further studies that take factors such as educational level, income, and gender into consideration will be required. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
All right, Tony, over to you for some excitement.
That's right. We got cricket, and Australia looking like they could, they're in the driving seat at least at the moment. Australia got off to a fast start against England in the third Ashes Test at Old Trafford. The visitors need to win after dropping the first two matches in the series. James Wong has more.
Michael Clarke scored an unbeaten 125 and Steve Smith 70 not out as Australia raced to 303 for 3 on the opening day of the third Test. The tourists recovered from another decision review system controversy as Usman Khawaja was given out and the decision was upheld on review despite Hotspot revealing no mark on his bat.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I was up the other end. Even in real time, I didn't think he hit it. I didn't think he was anywhere near it. So, the umpire must have had a different view on it, but I thought it was not out, and that's why we reviewed it. And, from what we saw on the replays, I think even the England guys had given up hope of it being out. So, it was disappointing and another question mark, I guess.
2-hour cricket highlight of the night and former Australia captain Ricky Ponting in the house for the Caribbean Premier League match between Barbados and Antigua. And a great catch by Devon Thomas. Still, the Tridents beat the Hawksbills by 12 runs. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
Football, and Real Madrid defeated the LA Galaxy 3-1 in the International Champions Cup in the US. The Spanish Giants opened the scoring in the 15th minute. Cristiano Ronaldo with a sublime pass to Angel Di Maria. Karim Benzema came on for Ronaldo in the second half and he added 2 goals. Madrid will next play English Premier League club Everton in the semi-finals. The team stayed on course to meet Chelsea and former manager Jose Mourinho in the title match. Meanwhile, the Blues beat Inter Milan 2-0. Goals from Oscar and Eden Hazard. Chelsea stars Juan Mata, Fernando Torres and David Luiz started the game on the bench. And there was also an injury scare for captain John Terry. Hugo Campagnaro was shown a straight red card for a stamp on Terry's ankle. However, the 32-year-old went on to complete the match, and Chelsea will play AC Milan for a place in the final.
And that's the news for tonight. Thanks for watching.
Good night.
Good evening. It was cloudy with scattered squally showers and thunderstorms today. At 7 p.m., severe tropical storm Jebi was about 430 kilometers southwest of Hong Kong, and it's expected to move northwest. Today's temperatures ranged from 25.5 to 27.9 degrees, and the relative humidity was between 84 to 99%. Winds were strong east to southeasterlies. The current temperature is now standing at 26.3 degrees Celsius, and the relative humidity is 98%. 43.1 millimeters of rain has been recorded since midnight, and a reminder that the strong wind signal number 3 is in force. So, Freddie, how's the weather tomorrow? Mainly cloudy with squally showers tomorrow. Temperatures will range from 25 to 29 degrees. It will become fine in the following few days. Tomorrow's API is forecast at 10 to 55, and the air pollution level will range from low to high. The maximum UV index forecast for tomorrow will be about 5. And now to the latest global weather update. Thunderstorms in Shanghai, showers in Taipei and Xiamen. Rain in Guangzhou, showers in Macau, cloudy in Chengdu. Thunderstorms in Beijing, rain in Seoul, cloudy in Tokyo. Thunderstorms in Bangkok, rain in Ho Chi Minh City and Manila. Bright in Kuala Lumpur, thunderstorms in Singapore, showers in Jakarta. Thunderstorms in New Delhi, rain in Karachi, showers in Mumbai. Sunny in Cairo, showers in Nairobi. Sunny in Brisbane and Sydney, rain in Melbourne, showers in Auckland. Cloudy in Toronto and New York. Cloudy in Vancouver, bright in San Francisco and Los Angeles. Sunny in London, Paris, and Zurich, thunderstorms in Amsterdam, cloudy in Frankfurt. And that's the weather. Have a great weekend.